If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen the last week I've not had the best run of luck with my car. I had a few things go on, and people seem to be always very interested in this stuff, and I like sharing these experiences and stories. Once again, I'm not an expert in this, but I just thought I'd sit down and share my experience and story of how nearly melted the engine on my car the last week and been on the back of a tow truck and multiple other things happen. It started last Tuesday. I got the 40,000 kilometre service for my car. Now it was all good, no dramas. Actually, I do need a new front steering rack end, driver's side rack end on my car, but we already knew that before the service because I got new tyres when I went to get the wheel alignment, said they couldn't do it because that rack end was gone. But that's been covered through Nissan under warranty. But that's another thing that's gone wrong lately. But I guess doing the four-wheel driving I'm doing, I have to expect a rack end's gonna go. It's not completely broken, but it is loose. It is on its way out. Other than that, the service is all good. You know, it's got the usual fuel done, oil filters done, all those sorts of things. That happened on Tuesday. Now on Friday, I'd planned to be in Sydney. I was travelling down Thursday afternoon. I had to pick up the new fridge for the canopy, some furniture from IKEA, and get a tune done on the nav, which I'll cover that in a different video because that's been delayed now because of what happened. Thursday afternoon, I packed up, left home. I was about an hour down the highway. My phone starts ringing. Dad's calling. He says, "You better pull over and check your car. I've just noticed where you're parked in the yard. There's a decent amount of liquid on the ground, potentially coolant, something else, I don't know." But he wasn't major stressing, but he sort of said, you know, you better pull over and check. I was only a few minutes out of the next town, so I thought, oh, wait, I've got to get fuel there anyway. Coolanguk, Kalengaluk, whatever that town is, I have no idea. I know the name, I just don't know how to pronounce it. Pulled over at the garage there, just hopped straight under the car to have a look, and I immediately noticed there was liquid coming out from coming out all the bash plates and under that area there. Everywhere. I thought, that's not good. I had a first quick thought, oh, is it the air conditioner condensation? Because that leaks out of the area too. I thought, oh, it looks like more than that. Touched it, and it was blue. Air conditioner's just plain water, whereas this actually blue. I thought, oh, that's coolant. Not good. I got a coolant leak. Popped the bonnet and started looking around to see where this coolant was coming from. And it wasn't too long, and I noticed that the lower radiator hose, basically the bottom one right down the bottom there that sits underneath the coolant bottle, and the radiator had pushed back. It was sitting back on the air conditioner like pulley block or whatever it is, the thing that the belt runs around on. You could see there's blue coolant that had been spurted everywhere, and you could see a big split in it there where it basically jammed back into it and rubbed a cut through it. That's when the stress immediately started, when you realised you've been an hour down the highway and you've had coolant pouring out of your car. You think, is this thing run dry? It was still leaking coolant, so I thought, well, that's some sort of good sign that it still has coolant coming out of it. The engine did feel a little bit hotter than usual, but it wasn't anything major. There's no like steam or smoke, and it wasn't just boiling in there. Nothing was going crazy. I hadn't noticed any engine temperatures come on. I hadn't noticed anything. I definitely realised that I did have a major problem when you've got a lower radiator hose busted and you're on halfway down the highway to Sydney. Thought this is definitely a problem. I called Dad back straight away and I said, thank goodness you did call me. There's coolant coming out of this thing everywhere. Because if he hadn't have called me, highly unlikely, there's a chance I would have seen it coming out at the garage there, but most likely thing would have been I was in a bit of a hurry. I would have got fuel, taken off straight back down the highway, and I don't know what happens then. Like, I don't know how well the gauges on these things pick up overheating. I've been told they don't pick it up that well, especially if you've lost all your coolant, because it doesn't have the coolant in there to pick up the temperature, because it can't read air. I don't know exactly how it works. People said it, I don't actually know, but from what I've heard, fairly hit and miss of whether that gauge would have actually picked it up. And then there's no alarm or anything, so it's only a fact of whether I actually see it. But providing if none of that happens and you miss that, which is probably the likely, the next step is going to be your car you nearly melt your engine. The car gets to the point where it shuts down because it's just completely overheated. It's not running. It's misfiring. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen then. But if he hadn't have called me and pulled me up, then most likely would have destroyed the engine on my car. So I thought, well, I'm not going anywhere now. I don't know if you can fix those lower radiator hoses. Spoke to a mechanic and he said it's just really not worth it. I called NRMA, spoke to their mechanic. He said, look, I can come out, but we're just better off getting you on a tow truck. It's not worth risking trying to repair it and sending you back down off the highway. You know, like, we're going to need coolant. This is about 5:30 in the afternoon. I could not get a replacement radiator hose. Everywhere was closed. He said, look, we got to get you on a tow truck, which is obviously not what you want to happen when you're off on down to Sydney on a trip away or whatever. Now I started thinking to myself, why is this radiator hose sitting back on this air conditioner block thing? You know, why is it there? Why is it so close to it? And I put a thing on Instagram, and the first few responses I started getting were, have you had a service done recently? Because mechanics move that lower radiator hose when they service your car. Now, not all, but some do. For these D23s, once you take that bash plate off, you don't have to undo your whole radiator hose and drain the coolant or anything crazy like that. But there's a little bolt there. You unbolt it, lift it up, and then it makes it easier to get in there to your oil filter. And I know my mechanic does undo and move that radiator hose out of the way. Meaning I started thinking, has he moved this radiator hose when he serviced on Tuesday and forgot to put it back properly? But then I started hearing other things coming in. This is actually quite a common issue. That lower radiator hose only sits about 10 mil off that air conditioner block thing. And I had quite a few stories. Seems to be a bit of a recurring issue of either mechanics moving it and not putting it back properly, or that bolt coming a little bit loose, which allows that bit of movement which pushes it back, or just the car's taking a bit of knock or something, because as I said, it only sits that far off it and they're getting pushed back. Now the funny thing is, if you're not running your aircon, it won't do anything. It'll just sit there because that's not spinning. But once your aircon's actually running and that's spinning, then it'll just chew that hose to pieces pretty quickly. At this point, I didn't really know what had happened, but I was definitely starting to stress. Even though I'd turned my car off all good, the engine hadn't completely gone crazy, you still start to get that stress when you're dealing with extra heat on your engine. Have I potentially damaged anything? And also, you know, it's how long till I can get this new radiator hose? The car could be off the road a week or something, I don't know. Now, I get my own mechanic to service my car. It's not through Nissan. Providing you get a qualified mechanic to service your car, then it's still, all your warranty still maintains and everything. It just has to get stamped by a qualified mechanic at the service intervals. You don't actually have to go to Nissan or a dealership. I go to my own mechanic. I find him really good. He's nearly half the price of getting it serviced at a dealership, and he does a good thorough job and check over it. When you get a new car through Nissan, they give you 5 years roadside assistance or whatever it is. So that was who I called to get help. They put you through to NRMA, and NRMA sent a tow truck out. Car got put on a tow truck. They take it to the closest Nissan dealer, which from there was the Nissan in Foster. That's where it went, off on a tow truck. My girlfriend came and picked me up on the Thursday night, took me back home, and I had a fairly stressful night worrying about my car and what had potentially happened and what had gone wrong and everything else. The next morning I rang up Nissan Foster, and as soon as they opened, I said, did you see my car there? It's been dropped off there by a tow truck. They said, yep, we saw it. We immediately saw the coolant under the ground. We've actually got 3 of those radiator hoses in stock. It seems to be a bit of a common problem. We keep them in stock. So it immediately leads to the question is, why is this happening so often? Now, as I said, it seems to be a few mistakes going on with these being serviced. You don't have to move that radiator hose, but some are, and it's not being put back properly. But it seems to just be a bit of a common thing from what I've heard, where it's just sitting way too close. And then it's getting pushed back for whatever reason, a bit of a loose bolt there or something, it's going back, and then it's just chewing it out on that air conditioner. He said, yep, all good, we got it in stock. We got a few things on this morning, but we'll be able to fix it up for you this afternoon and get it in. We'll check all your engine, and hopefully it's all good to go. So at this point, you know, just waited around till that afternoon when I went down there, hoping that it was on the good side, it was all fixed and I hadn't actually destroyed the engine. Now, during the day, I called my mechanic. As I said, I was my own mechanic, and I know him really well. I've been going to him for years. I said, look, this is what's happened. Do you remember moving that radiator hose, not putting it back properly? He said he wasn't 100% sure. He said he thought he put it back, but there may have been a little bit of like a loose bolt there, or it didn't clip back in properly. He said it does sit very close. He's sort of heard of it happening. He said, look, I'll cover your bill for you, because I had just worked on it. I just worked in that area. We couldn't really say whether it was him or it's just inconvenient timing where the issue arised, but he was really good about it. He said, look, I'll cover your bill and help you out with any repairs you need or whatever. So if you do own one of these D23s, or you have a mate or a friend or a brother or a sister or a cousin or a mum or a dad or an uncle or an auntie, well, that was a lot, that owns one of these, definitely check this out, because that moves back on that air conditioner belt, whether for whatever reason, seems to be a few reasons it's doing it, it chews that out, starts draining coolant, then you're going to potentially melt your engine. You're not going to know until your car shuts off driving down the road, because it's overheating and melting everything. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on regularly, particularly after servicing, depending on whether your mechanic moves it all or not. Got to Nissan at Foster and it was all good. They said, all good, we've changed it all out. So you have to buy that radiator hose in a 3 or 4 piece. You can't actually just buy the one little individual piece that was broken. You have to buy this bit, this bit, this bit, and this bit. You have to buy the whole kit. But anyways, they just changed the one piece and they gave me the other bits there as spares as well. They said, look, all good, we've changed that. We've put new coolant in there for you. They said when we drained it, still a decent amount of coolant came out, which immediately made me feel better because it hadn't run nearly empty or dry. We've put all the computers on it, the scan gauges, tested it all out. No codes came up. He said when these things overheat, they start throwing like your overheating codes. He said none of them came up. There's no signs whatsoever. We can't guarantee, we're 99% sure you haven't overheated anything. It's all good. So I was very relieved at this point. So it cost me $500. It was $250-ish for the parts. It was $100 for the coolant, which is quite expensive for coolant, but I think because it's like just genuine Nissan coolant, I don't know, Nissan parts are always expensive, and it's meant to last 160,000 Ks or something. And then that 4-piece radiator hose was 140 or something like that. And then it was 2 hours labour, and dealerships normally charge, what is it, like 120, 130 an hour. They are a little bit higher than the average, but that's to be expected. Couple hours labour and your parts. All good. I thought problem solved, and I'll talk to my mechanic. As I said, he said he'd cover the bill, but personally I'd feel like a bit of a wanker turning up there with a $500 bill, because he's always very good to me and he helps me out. He doesn't charge me too much. He'll help for little bits and pieces here and there. So I just said to him, look, maybe just the next service, like do the next service for free or something. He does the services for about $300, $350, so just call it square there. All good. Problem solved. Well, I thought. Anyway, the next day, Saturday, Dad said, pop your bonnet, we better have a good look over this whole thing. Because that was one lesson I learned from this. Whenever your car gets worked on, go over everything. Because people make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. And you just want to go over everything just to make sure. So here we are going over everything. And as I said, they only replaced that one piece of radiator hose. And here I am looking at the next piece, and I start seeing that's rubbed through as well. The next piece of radiator hose, they obviously have not checked, which I've thought it would have been really nice. Like, surely they should have checked the next piece of radiator hose. They said it was all sitting out of place, and you'd think they'd check the next time. Anyways, they obviously didn't, and I could see that was nearly rubbed through as well. So here I am stressing again now that this piece, it hadn't rubbed through. It was still holding coolant, but I think, well, this could potentially let go at any moment here as well. So I'm going to have to keep a real close eye on this. Sorry, there's birds there in the background. I'm going to have to keep a really close eye on this now. I'm going to have to get back to the mechanics Monday. It's the weekend. I can't really do anything. I'm just going to have to wait till Monday and then sort this out too. Now, just to really top off the week I was having, on the Sunday, the next morning, Kai and I went for a drive out the bush to our local favourite swimming spot. Went out there, went for a nice walk, went for a swim in in the little waterfall there. It's absolutely beautiful spot. And then I went to start my car and it was completely dead. Nothing whatsoever. I filmed a little video out there, so I'll show you out there what happens. The excitement just keeps getting better. What a few days this has been. Just one disaster after the other. Just come for a Sunday morning swim out the bush and the car is just completely dead. I can hope it's the battery, that the battery just lost all power. Central locking won't work, won't even get a dash on the light, won't even get a click, a cranky, just nothing. It's just completely gone. And there was no signs of anything before this. So I don't know if something's gone wrong with the battery, it's disconnected somehow, or whether it's gone flat. I don't know what's happened. And then normally I carry a portable jump starter in my car, but I took it out 2 days ago to make the drive to Sydney because I just cleared my canopy out all my bags, and it was in one of my bags because I need the room because I was bringing a fridge and furniture and a heap of stuff back from Sydney. And I just hadn't put it back in yet because you haven't been going anywhere, just a 10-minute trip from home to our local swimming hole, and then now I don't have it on me either. Dad's on his way out. We can only hope I can jump start it, otherwise he's going to have to tow me out the bush 5-10 minutes to the main road and on a tow truck again, I guess. Nice spot here though, at least. Just been swimming out here. Well, do you want to start it and I'll keep an eye on it?
Flashing light in here, which is door related or something. Have you seen that today?
Nah, well, not since this has happened.
Right, because I'm getting that.
So I might have just put power back into it now with that hooked on.
Yep, there's your first good sign. So you haven't seen a light of any shape description?
Not since pulling up here and going to start the car again.
Right.
Just everything's completely gone.
Yeah. And it's the original battery?
Yeah.
And what's this car, 2 years old now?
Oh, 18 months.
Yeah.
So if you go to on, if we get light,
here we are.
Yeah, see, none of that.
Yeah, it had nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
So if you start that now, that should go. Started easy then. Yeah, I thought it was weird when everything was fully gone, like no central locking, no light. Like it went from working fine to just nothing. This is actually the jump starter I carry in my car. I bought this for my own money. This is no sort of sponsored thing or anything. It's a Noco GB70. These are actually really good. They got a light on them. They got USB, so you can charge your phone, GoPros, whatever on them. Big jump starting packs. Always carry one of these. Well, not always, because I didn't have it on me. When I'd gone to Sydney on Friday, I'd cleared out my whole canopy because we had heaps to pick up. And the one time I haven't had this, only about 3 years, of course, my car goes dead. Another nice little drama to end the week, another car problem. Come Monday morning, I rang back Nissan. I said, look, this is what happened. The hose next to the one you changed was actually also rubbing too. Like, did you check that one? Do you know what's happened? I'm always careful of what I say, but I wouldn't really say they're exactly super helpful. They sort of said, oh look, we pressure tested the car. It was all good, there's no problems, like you just have to get that hose changed out too, which is kind of annoying because when they'd basically bled and done the whole coolant system, like in my opinion, really they should have checked the hose next to it as well because they knew the whole thing was out of place. And then they could have simply changed that out as well because they had that. That was part of the kit I bought. So I still had that bit of hose that could have been changed over. And yeah, they just said, look, we pressure tested it all, like it was all good, there's no problems there. I said, yeah, well, it's not, because it's not leaking anything yet, so it's going to pressure test all good. But that bit of hose is nearly rubbed through, that could blow out at any minute. And then he said, oh yeah, and the other problem we have is once you have to change that bit of hose, then it becomes a big job. You have to remove like your wheel arches and get the wheels off and pull this and pull that out, and it's quite a major job. So that was why we didn't really worry about it. It was a big job for us to do. I didn't really want to push him or anything. I just said, yeah, okay, I'll go talk to my mechanic and sort it out. And he said, yeah, just get that bit of hose changed out again. But which for me, as I said, was a little bit frustrating because it meant the whole job had to get redone again. Went back to my mechanic, the one who had originally done the service and everything. Went back to him that morning and he said, yeah, no problems, leave it with me today. We've got to let the whole system cool down, leave it with me and I'll fix it all up for you, no charge. I'll replace that bit of hose in and out. Left it with him for the day. He called me about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. He said, yep, all done, come pick it up. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting. I won't share because, as I said, I'm not an expert. I don't know these things. When I got there, I said, "Oh, what would have taken you most today?" Nissan said that was a fair job. You had to pull the wheels off, wheel arches, everything. He said, "What? What are you talking about?" He said, "It took me about 40 minutes to do that whole system. You know, take your bash plates off, drain it all out." He said he doesn't actually include the time of the coolant, like letting it all bleed out and letting all the air, because he walks off and does something else. He said it was about 40 minutes labour for me to do all that job. I said, "But Nissan said you had to do all that." He said, "No, you definitely didn't have to do all that." Which leaves me to question of, have they just said that when I rang them up to cover their ass, that they missed that and didn't do the job properly? Like, I don't know. It's always hard to know. You get so many different stories from different people. It's hard to know what's right and wrong. And then he said, and I showed him the bill because he was going to fix me up for that. He said, 2 hours labour, like, how'd they charge you for that? He said, I did that hose in about 40 minutes, which is harder than the one they did. He said the other one's probably about 25 minutes labour. So I'm thinking, you know, like, you're getting all these different times and different prices and everything. I understand, like, Nissan were helpful. They got it done for me on the day. They helped me out of a crisis. You know, happy to pay the 2 hours labour, but it's just, why is he telling me it's about, you know, half hours labour? If they want to round it up to an hour or something, that's fine. But I know they put the computer on it. They would have test drove it, done all these different things. Anyways, the labour thing I'm not really as worried about. I'm not too worried about paying a little bit extra for labour. I'm just more a little bit annoyed that they didn't check that bit of hose when they should have. And then they've basically just made up some story that's not true. Now, I've confirmed with other people who work at Nissan. They said, no, you don't have to do that. We're not sure why he's told you that. Anyways, I think we're finally back all on top of it now. I'll be keeping a very close eye on that bit of pipe moving forward in the future. And as I said, if you do have one of these, I'd definitely be checking that bit of piping that sits underneath that radiator, because I only spoke to my mate yesterday and he said we had one of these in our shop yesterday, and because of what you put up on Instagram, we checked it and the radiator hose was rubbing there. I've heard this story happening heaps of times. That's my story of what's happened. We got the car back on the road now in one piece. Haven't blown anything up. I think it's all good. We'll wait and see what drama happens next time. Here's Dad, who saved the car on the day. So what ended up happening, you know, you just got home from work and you knew I was going to Sydney or driving, and you saw a big patch of something up there on the road.
Yeah, I saw a big patch of fluid and I thought it was in amongst a heap of gum leaves, and I actually picked up one gum leaf and smelled it, as queer as it was. And I thought, what is that? And I thought, that's got to be worth following through with a phone call. So I rang Tyler and he pulled up and there was the problem.
It was lucky you did call me, because if you didn't, then unlike you would have seen it, and there probably would have been a blown engine there, melted engine.
Yeah, and I've seen it happen before. They go into meltdown.
Because you've overheated your car a few times as well with coolant problems as well, haven't you?
I've heat seized a mechanical diesel, one of my old Rodeos, ran out of water and it grabbed a piston and stalled it, and that didn't become a problem. We got out of that, put a new water pump in it.
It was all good.
It was all good. But with these high pressure things, I don't think you're going to get that escape.
I'm not going to be so lucky. Now, I just got a couple of other things I want to quickly cover in this video. I'm actually going to talk about new tyres, because we got new tyres and I can say what I think of my old ones. The first thing to let you know is actually this Saturday, the 6th of March, both Dad and myself are going to be at the Drifter Stockton Heatherbrae store from 9 AM to 2 PM. We'll be there, we'll have the nav, we'll have the MUX. I'm going to bring all my merchandise too. So this is actually my old stuff I'm wearing at the moment, but arriving tomorrow or Thursday. But this is Tuesday, but you'll probably see this video Wednesday, so that's confusing, or Thursday. Anyways, all my merch will be here. I'm bringing all that down with me, and that's also available on the website as well. So I know on the first day I released that merch on YouTube, that sold out on the day. So if you do want to grab some, that's all back up available on the website now, which is www.tylerthompson.com.au, and I'll have it all with me on the weekend. But yeah, if you're around, come down, say hello, check out the nav, check out the MUX, and I'll put up the address of where that is on the screen now so you can see where you need to go. And yeah, that should be a good day out. The other thing I want to quickly mention, mostly for people on Patreon, is I'm looking at changing it over to a monthly monthly subscription rather than a pay per creation. That way I can just start at say $10 a month. You know what you're paying for the whole month no matter how many videos I do. We're going to set up some different levels for each of the tiers. You'll get sort of different benefits, but as I said, you always get all your questions answered on Patreon, help there. You get early access to the videos, and I do that one exclusive trip plan video a month from one of our recent trips away. So the one up there on the moment is Fraser Island. And it also looks like everyone's been enjoying the series that's coming out at the moment, which is good. That was actually such an awesome trip away, that one around Orange. We missed the high country, but that ended up being just as incredible in the end, if not even better, because we've never been there. There's some insane water crossings. That's actually going to be a 7-part series. What are we up to now? Part 3 came out on YouTube the weekend just gone. Part 4 will be out this Sunday. But yeah, I'm nearly finished editing all. I'm just working on part 7, the last one at the moment. And then the last thing I'll talk about in this video is tyres. So both Dad and I have new tyres. Got the Falcon Wild Peak Mud Terrains. Now in my car they're a 285/75 R16. Actually quickly, these are ROH Vapor rims. They're on a positive 30 offset. Suspension lift is an Ironman foam cell 2-inch Pro lift kit. Wow, I've really confused that. But anyways, Ironman 2-inch foam cell Pro lift kit, that's it. I'm really happy with that lift kit, really happy with the rims, tyres. People always ask me for reviews, thoughts on tyres, how my Nittos went. I'll just set the record straight here. I rarely notice much difference at all between mud terrain tyres. I have had Mickey Thompson's, General Grabbers, Hancooks, Nittos. Now I've got the Falcons. That's 5 brand of mud tyres. I could not tell you which one was the best out of them, or whether one was more noisy on the road or better off-road. I find them very or similar. I find that with these top sort of 10 to 15 brand of mud tyres, they're all really good. Like they all do the job. I don't know. People ask me to do a review on my Nittos. I got 40,000 Ks out of my Nittos. They were probably 60% worn. That seems to be what I get out of mud tyres, 40 to 50,000. I could have got more out of the Nittos. The problem I had was I'd had bad wheel alignments done in the front. I'd rotated them 4 times, but they'd still just chewed out unevenly, which is, yeah, I just feel like every time I go forward driving, the wheel alignment just goes out a bit more again. I know people get a lot more out of mud tyres, but that's about, as I said, that 40, 50,000 is about as much as I ever get out of mine. So I was happy with them. I was happy with all my mud tyres. I'm sure I'll be happy with these too. These were a sponsored set of tyres, same as on Dad's car. I'm not here to tell you that they're the best or better than all the other brands. Hopefully, and I'm sure they will. They definitely look like a good tyre. They'll do the job like all the others have done. The only thing with these is they are cheaper than the other brands, and I've heard lots of good things about them, especially for the price. So that's probably the only benefit there I can see over some of the other brands, but I can't give her thoughts on them yet. I'll just have to test them. You'll see on the videos how well they do. But yeah, that's my feedback on tyres. I never really have too much to say about them or much to give in regards to how good they are. And road noise, the only thing I find in mud tyres is they get very slippery in the wet. Once they're about 40% worn, they start to get slippery quick in the wet. And then road noise, I've never noticed much difference between any of the brands, to be honest. They all got that bit of road noise, but on a big four-wheel drive like this, with everything else on it, roof racks, all of it, the last thing you're worried about is the tiny bit of tyre noise. You can hardly hear it over the mix of everything else. And these are the same ones on Dad's. It's got the new ones there as well, but his are one size down. So mine are 33s, these are about 32s. These are the 265/75 on a 16-inch rim. Dad had the Toyo mud terrains before. He got about 50,000 out of them, and they were well and truly worn out by them. But just like me, he is horrendous on tyres. We both leave our tyres aired down when we hit the roads and run them low pressures out the bush, and definitely don't look after them as well as we should. So that's sort of about as much as we can hope for. I was just saying about your Toyos then. What did you think of your Toyos?
Excellent, yeah. I thought they were great tyres.
But you're just like me. You never notice much difference between different brands of tyres.
Very little. They all do what you want them to do, and I think all the makers have got to build good tyres because they're unloaded vehicles all the time.
Because people always ask me how one tyre brand compares to another and what I think of this one over that one, and I can never I've never got much to say at all.
Yeah, I haven't, but the tread edge on these new Falcons we got looks like a real good grab edge on them to me.
Yeah.
That outside edge looks like it's going to work really good in mud and slush.
Yeah. But we've got to test them out anyways. We haven't really tested them out yet.
Yeah.
I think that's everything for this video. I've probably talked for ages now and end up being a long video. Two last things I wanted to ask, which I wanted some help on, because this whole coolant thing happening got me thinking about better ways to register these. I know you can get things that register coolant loss and overheating of engines. So has anyone got any links that Dad and I can get for our cars, any sort of device readers or gauges or whatever they are that read coolant temps and overheating engines and things like that, so we can keep a better eye on this from happening? Because you know, you get like one little hose go wrong like that and you blow a whole engine. And then another thing I want to get soon is I'm thinking about getting an electric chainsaw to take out bush rather than a petrol one. I've had that Stihl Mini Boss 180 for a few years now. It's really good. It's just that you got to carry fuel everywhere with you, which stinks. They're very noisy. I wouldn't mind one of those electric ones, which I can just sort of put in the canopy. So my question was, I do have some Makita gear. I have a Makita cordless grinder and drill and things like that. I've got the charging and battery packs for them. Has anyone had any experience with the Makita electric chainsaws? Are they any good? Has anyone used one? Because I'm thinking that's probably the best thing for me to do. Just grab one of them when I already have all the charging and battery packs and everything for it. Anyways, we'll finish up that video here. Remember, you can follow all the mishaps I seem to have unfold on Instagram. Follow along there and support the channel over at Patreon. Well, it's been an interesting week. I saw you start laughing.
Because I didn't know if you're talking to me or to this. So.
No, I'm going to be talking to the camera now.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how to start it. Well, it's been an interesting week. Had a few dramas. Freaking fly.
I just went to red when you talked then.
In this video, I'll cover.
On red again.
In this video, I'll cover how I nearly melted the engine on my car, and that's the main point of this video, I guess. Run of luck with things going on in my car. I had a few. Are going to be at the Drifter Stockton Heatherbrae store from 9 AM to 2 AM. Did I say the time?
2 AM.
No, okay. I can't with this. Well, it's going to be a long day.
I'm not coming.
And then we're going to come up with some different sort of things you'll get for each tier, each sort of subscription you subscribe to. Well, I'll just...